Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today my topic is data entry using SPSS. Every good deed brings you one step closer to Jannah. Never underestimate a sunnah. No matter how tiny it is, it could be your ticket to Jannah. Learning outlines. Introduction of SPSS, types of variables, various windows of SPSS, data entry process in SPSS, levels of measurements. By the end of this presentation, participant will be able to describe the introduction and the data entry process in the SPSS. Introduction. What is the SPSS? SPSS is the statistical package for the social sciences. It is a comprehensive and flexible statistical analysis and data management solution. It is a computer program which is used for the survey, authoring and development, data mining, text analytics, statistical analysis, collaboration and deployment. SPSS can take any form of data from any file and use them to generate tabulated reports, charts, plots of distribution and trends, descriptive stats, and conduct complex statistical analysis which you required in quantitative research. As you already know, what is the research? Research is first of all defining the problem statement on which topic you want to conduct the research, then identify specifically the problem which you need to study and resolve, then gather the information about the research problem, analyze the data and determine the factors associated with the problem, and solve the problem by taking the necessary corrective action. And we already learned there is two type of research: qualitative research and quantitative research. In qualitative research, main concept is researcher is concerned with understanding the human behavior from the informant's perspectives and assumes a dynamic and negotiated reality. Whereas in quantitative research, the researcher is concerned with discovering the facts about social phenomena and assumes a fixed and measurable reality. The methodological approach in qualitative research is data are collected through participant observations and interviews. Data is analyzed by themes from description by informants, whereas in quantitative research, data are collected through measuring things by using questionnaires, and these data are analyzed through numeric comparison and statistical inferences because data are collected in numbers. In this, the data are reported in a language of informant, whereas in quantitative research, data are reported through statistical analysis. Therefore, the main aim of quantitative research is to collect the data through measuring things and then make the data various comparisons and statistical inferences. And for this research, quantitative research, we perform analysis in the SPSS. Because in qualitative research, we gather data in the form of words or interviews, and these data are reported in language of the participants. Therefore, research process involve defining the problem statement, then clear about your research objective. And in the field research, there is two type of research: qualitative research and quantitative research. And in the quantitative research, we make a questionnaire. First of all, we construct a questionnaire, then collect the data through this questionnaire and analyze the data, write and presenting the final research report is all the process in the quantitative method. Now, first of all, in the quantitative data, we are mainly concerned with constructing a questionnaire, gathering the data, and then we want to analyze these data. For this purpose, we enter the data in software where there are various softwares available. R software, SPSS, but mainly used software is SPSS. Therefore, we want to enter the data so that we can perform the analysis, statistical analysis on research data. For this purpose, we can use the SPSS. SPSS is the mainly consists of six different windows. It consists of data editor window, output navigator, pivot table editor, chart editor, text output editor, and syntax editor. Data editor is the main spreadsheet in which we define the variables and enter the data. Data editor is mainly composed of two windows, variable view and data view. And in the data view, each row corresponds to case while each column represents a variable. The output navigator is when we run any statistical test, the SPSS display the statistical results, tables or any chart from the analysis we performed. And an output navigator windows open automatically when you run a procedure that generates the output. The pivot table editor is output display in pivot tables which can be modified in many ways with the pivot table editor, and you can edit text, swap data in rows and columns. In chart editor, we can modify and save high resolution charts and plots by making the chart editor. Text output editor is also available in SPSS, and this allows text output non display in pivot tables can be modified with the text output editor and can edit the output and change font characteristics such as you can change the type, style, color, size. Syntax editor is can paste your dialog box selection such as syntax editor window where you selections appear in the form of command tags. Tag. The main window which we concern is data editor which consists of variable view and data view. Now our main aim in the quantitative research is collecting the data to questionnaire, and then for entering this data into entering the data in SPSS, we translate the questionnaire in first of all we translate our questionnaire into variable or mapping the questionnaire into variable before entering the SPSS. Therefore, first of all, you know about how to translate the questionnaire before entering into the SPSS. The questions that we collect in the quantitative research or in the questionnaire are mainly mapped into variables, first of all, into three formats. The questions are present may be present in the form of question response formats. Some variables are available in the form of scale characteristics, and then we can define the levels of measurement. Before we can enter the data in the SPSS, we translate our questionnaire or see our questionnaire in these three formats. First of all, our questionnaire, which include the question response formats, can be close-ended questions. It may be open-ended question with numerical response. It may be open-ended question with text response, and it may be multiple response questions. How response format look like, as I am already told that it may be close-ended question, means there is only option yes or no. For example, in your questionnaire there may be a question, how is your satisfaction with the customer service of the staff of customer of taxis. For example, you may include the categories excellent, good, bad, very bad. These are the four options, and then you can code these options excellent, good, bad, or very bad into 1, 2, 3, 4. Because when we enter these questions in the SPSS, we need to code these variables, options of these variables into 1, 2, and 3 for entering into the SPSS. This format shows the close-ended question which show the yes or no category, and this is not the open-ended. The open-ended question may be numerical response or text response. In open-ended question with numerical response, the question may be what is your average expenditures in the restaurant on a weekly basis. For example, in the rupees per week, or it may be in the form of for how many years have you registered as a student at Punjab University in years, as these show the numeric or measurable terms there, and it is open-ended. The participant may indicate any form of expenditures, or there may be any years. Some students indicate 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Therefore it is open ended but with numerical response question. These questions we cannot code because it is open ended and it is as it is entered into the SPSS. The open-ended question may also be in the form of text response. For example, there may be a question in the questionnaire, I would like to have the assortment extended with following products. And the participant will be answered in any form or in any theme, in the form of any thinking he has in her, his or in mind. And when we receive the open-ended question with text response, we processed it after. Either we can code it the text response manually afterwards or typing the answer directly text variable in the SPSS, which include auto record afterwards. Therefore, there may be three type of question: uh, close-ended question with yes or no category, open-ended question with numerical response, open-ended question with text response, or multiple response question. These four types of questionnaires are always available in your questionnaire when you collect the data. And before entering the data, uh, con- you must define your variables and type of questions. Now, after translating your questionnaire and coding the questionnaire, as we can enter the data in the SPSS. SPSS, as I already told you, has 6 windows, but the main window which is concerned with the data entry is the data editor window. It has two views: data view, which is you see is data view. In this, there is columns columns and rows. Each row represents the variable and each column represents the case in the data view. And there is also variable view. In this variable view, you can enter your variables in the form of it can consist of 10 characteristics: name, type, width, decimal, label, values, missing column, align, and measures. Now data entry process. First of all, as I already told you, we can in the question we define our variables and then translate the variables. Either it is open-ended question and fall in which type of category. Then after defining the variables, we enter the variables in the variable view and then enter the data or response of these questions or the values of the variables in the data view as shown in the figure. We can enter the variable or variables in the variable view after defining in the variable view and then the response of these variables in the data view. In the variable view, we can define the variables in the SPSS in the form of 10 characteristics which are used to define a variable. It includes name, values, type, missing values, width, column, decimal points, alignments, labels, and levels of measurement. First of all, name. Each variable must have unique number name which contain not more than 8 characters and starts with a letter. For example, it can make the variable meaningful. For example, you can describe the characteristics, for example, age, and it may be linked to the questionnaire. For example, A1 or Q3, and keep the name consistent across the file. In this, I will talk about the variable view which consists of 10 steps. And in the first of all, you can enter the name of a participant or any other name you can assign your variables. Now next step is to type of the variables. In the SPSS there are two types of variable: internal formats or output formats. Internal formats may be numeric, string which include alphanumeric type, and date. Output formats may be comma, dot, scientific notation, dollar, or custom currency. What is numeric variables? Numeric variables include the measurements, any measurements, for example, age, weight, height, and it may also include the codes. As I already mentioned, for example, you can measure the satisfaction level, excellent, good, or bad, and you code it. These category also fall into the numeric variable. String variable, what is a string variable? String variables are variables actually that hold zero or more characters such as letter, numbers, spaces, or commas. These include any type of characters, but it is not meaningful, and you can not apply any mathematical operation to these variables. The maximum size of string variable is 255 characters in the SPSS. For example, we create the two variables. It may be the patient ID, the unique identifier, which will be alphanumeric, because patient ID is indicate the text value, and it is not, we cannot use this information in our analysis. Therefore, it fall into the alphanumeric value. Age, the age of respondent we measure in years, and it can include also include a discrete variable ranging from 10 to 100. It is depend on your question whether it is your open or you define the categories of the age. Now, if we enter these two variables, if we generate the two example ID and age. In the variable view, first of all, we define the variable. First of all, we enter the ID type. As you know, it is not numeric type. You can, by clicking on the type, you can select the alphanumeric type, width, decimal label values, and missing values. And next, we can define these. And the second variable is age. As age is numeric value, so we can click the numeric value. For age, we can click the numeric value. Therefore, name is patient ID and it is string or alphanumeric value because it indicates the text which is not meaningful or not used in our analysis. Age is the numeric value because we measure in terms of years. Now, next thing in the SPSS is to define the levels of measurement. Whether the variable which you measure is nominal, ordinal. As you already know, nominal, ordinal are the categorical variables, and the nominal variables are all those categorical variables which have no meaningful, in which the ranking or categories are not meaningful. For example, you can measure the smoker non-smoking status in yes or no. And you question about the course at university, it include math, science, economics, or English. In these questions, the order is not meaningful. For example, you can also write first English, math, science, economics. You can change the arrangement of these variables, and there is no effect on the variable. But is in ordinal variable, the order in the categories of variable is meaningful. For example, you can measure the how happy are you with the customer service. In this, you can define the range very unhappy, unhappy, neutral, unhappy, or very unhappy. In this, you can define the categories which is meaningful, therefore it is ordinal. For example, you can also include the severity of pain, which include mild, moderate, severe. In this example, there is also a arrangement of the categories is also meaningful. Therefore, in the SPSS, the level of measurement may be nominal, ordinal, or it may be scale. Scale mean you can any variable which you measure in numeric form, it indicates a scale in the SPSS. For example, you can question please indicate your age. It includes in years. It is also numeric. How much do you think a typical purchaser of $1 lakh term life insurance policy pays per year for the policy? It is also open question, and you indicate the scale in dollars. It is also numeric, you can calculate. Therefore, you can code the data, and the data code book include, first of all, we can convert the questionnaires question into variables, then name the variables, code the variables value labels which include the data codes, and then define the level of measurement, whether it is ordinal, nominal, or scale. If you can justify these four things, then you can easily enter your data in the SPSS. Now come towards missing value. Which define the missing values. These values are excluded from some analysis. In the SPSS, there is option that you can enter the missing value up to three discrete missing values. A range of missing values also available. For example, when you click the missing value, then you can click the discrete missing value. You can show one missing value with triple line, second this, and third this. In this way, you can enter the three missing values. Therefore, in the variable sheet, there is name, type of variable which you in may be string or numeric, with decimal points if the decimal is a label. Label is actually the variable name which you indicate in your questionnaire. Values is the coding which you code the categories of questionnaire. Missing values, if you have, then you click the missing values. Columns, alignments, and measurements. Measurements, it may be whether it is nominal, scale, or ordinal. Columns and alignments, actually columns set the amount of spaces reserved to display the contents of variables in the data view. The column section in the variable view actually define the spaces which is display in the contents of variable in the data view, which generally default value is adequately available. Align sets whether the contents of variable appear on the left, center, or right of the cell in data view. Numeric variables are right-handed justified by default in SPSS, and string variables are left-handed justified by default in the SPSS. And the defaults are generally adequate. Therefore, the level of measurement is very important. These level of measurement may be nominal, ordinal, which is present in your questionnaire, interval, or ratio. But in the SPSS, any value, interval, or ratio you measure in your questionnaire or you collect the data are designated together as a scale, because SPSS has not interval or ratio, and it is combinedly indicated as scale variable, any numeric value. And any default variable, any string variable is by default is indicated as nominal variable, and any numeric variable is by default is indicated by scale variable. Therefore, in SPSS, there is four types of variables in the level of measurement: categorical, which is also known as qualitative. It may be nominal or ordinal. Nominal include unranked categories, for example, marital status, unmarried, married. There may be married first or unmarried later on. Political party eye color, because in these type of variables the ranking of the category is not meaningful. In the ordinal type, the ranking of the category is important. For example, satisfaction level, level of agreement. Because in this ordinal type, the ranking of category is important. And the second type which is available in the SPSS is scale, which will indicate the quantitative variable. It is not grouped. Any variable which is you measure, for example, height, weight, time, income, either it is interval or ratio, is indicated by scale in the SPSS. And it is essential to classify data correctly. Incorrect classification or indication of the variables may result in incorrect analysis, because our analysis depend on mainly our analysis depend on the type of variables you indicate in the SPSS. Whether it is qualitative, it is fall in the scale category, nominal category, or ordinal category. Now, in the questionnaire, I indicate two examples: ID or age. For example, now you enter the patient ID, may any number by in the data view by entering this, and age by entering the second column of age. In this way, you can also enter the more question in your questionnaire, and so on. In the last thing, after entering the data, always save the file. The file must always be saved in order to save the work that has been done to date. For example, file save, move to the target directory where you need to save the file and enter a file name and save. Appropriate name should be indicated. In this way, you save, name the file, and save the file. Summary, we learn the data editor, which include data view, and variable definition include name, type, width, decimal, label, values, missing values, columns, aligns, and measures. This is actually the SPSS sheet. It is data editor view. It includes data view, which I already described. In this view, there is columns which indicate the variables, and here is the rows which indicate the case. Here is the variable view. Variable view indicates the 10 characteristics: name, type, width, decimals, labels, values, missing, columns, alignment, measures, or role. For example, first variable we enter I want to enter is the patient ID. It indicates, as I already mentioned, the name should be adequate and it should be meaningful and 8 characteristics. Therefore, I indicate ID. If you want to increase the number of increase the length of the name, then you should indicate the dot between the words. As I already told, the patient ID is just for our information and there it indicates the text or any form of dot, but it is not meaningful or not required in analysis. We indicate this type of variables as alphanumeric or string variable. There may be width of the variable, and the width of the variables you may want to define the space, which is by default set in the SPSS 8. You can also you can also want or set it according to your requirement. It also indicates the decimal value if there is any decimal values available in your data set, or you want to indicate two decimal, then you want to enter the two decimal, or if there is no decimal, then it should be 0. Label is actually the your question in the questionnaire, or you define the variable. For example, here is the patient identification number. If you not code any type, therefore the value is 0, and if there is no missing value, then the missing value is also as it is. Columns is already by default is 8, and alignment is left by default, and measurement is nominal, as I already told that string variable is fall into the nominal category, and it is the input. Second, for example, if I generate the second variable is age, as I already know age is the numeric, therefore I tick on the numeric in the variable type. Width is 8, decimal is 0, label is the age of the respondent, value is none. If you indicate the categories, then you can indicate the coding variables in this form. If it is age is open, then value is as it is, missing value is none, column is 8, and it is alignment is right. And as I know that the age is the open or measurement, and I don't create the categories in this form, therefore it falls into the scale. Third level, education. Third variable, education. As education, I make the categories, so it should also fall in the numeric categories. Decimal should be 0. It includes the age education of the respondent. In these variable values, I code my variables into various categories. For example, value 1 I given to primary education, 2 given to secondary education, value 3 given to tertiary. In this way, any variable you define the values or code it, you can enter this variable in the values in this way. There is no missing value. If the missing value is a label, you can define the missing value by clicking the discrete missing value, and if there is one missing value, you can enter the triple line and OK. Therefore, this any missing value, if you find the questionnaire is labeled in the SPSS by triple line column. And in the measurement, as I know, education is the ordinal variable because primary, secondary and tertiary, it indicates the ranking is meaningful. Therefore, it should be ordinal. In this way, you can generate or enter your questionnaire variables in the variable view by defining these 10 characteristics and enter your data in the data view. For example, any ID patient 1, 2, 3, 4. As your age is open, you can enter the 30 years age, 32, 41, 42. Education, as I code 3 primary 1, secondary 2, tertiary 3. Therefore, there may be, for example, patient 1 education is primary, therefore I code 1, tertiary I code 3, primary 1, secondary 2. In this way, you can enter your categorical coding variable 1, 2, 3 or coding numbers, and the open response question as it is indicated by age. I not made the categories of age. I as it is enter the data or open-ended question response in the form of response. And if I made the categories, I enter the coded numbers which I assigned my categories in the questionnaire. In this way, you can enter the data in the SPSS and perform your analysis. And your analysis always be correct if you define the measure level of measurement correctly, because your analysis totally depend on the level of measurements, whether your correctly label your variables defines the measurement, whether it is nominal, scale or ordinal. Now there is time for MCQs. First MCQs is the Mr. Asim conducted a cross-sectional nationwide study or survey on the COVID. It includes the COVID-19 prevalence and predictors in the whole health during peak stay at home. He wants to
अच्छा
define the
प्लीज़
correct.
अपनी स्क्रीन शेयर कर दें प्रेजेंटेशन वाली
Okay, now it is time for MCQs. MCQs number one. Mr. Asim conducted a cross-sectional nationwide survey quantitative on the COVID-19 prevalence and predictors in Lahore adults during peak stay at home. He wants to define the characteristics of his search variable, which data editor view he will use in SPSS in order to define the characteristics of search variable. Data view, variable view, pivot table editor.
Variable view.
Yes, the correct answer is variable view, because in variable view we define the characteristics of research variable which is indicated in our questionnaire. MCQ second, Mr. Ali conducted a research quantitative on the gender differences in patients with COVID-19, focus on the severity and mortality. The variable gender, male or female, in this research indicate dash level of measurement in the SPSS. Nominal,
Nominal.
Nominal.
yes, because correct answer is nominal because in this type of variable there is no range or categories is meaningful. Female is come in the first or male come in the last. Therefore there is no effect on the analysis. MCQs number 3. Mr. Harris conducted a research on the effect of age on the mortality in patients with COVID-19. He collected open-ended with numerical response question on the effect of age as follows. What is the age of patient with COVID-19 in his questionnaire? The variable age in this research indicate dash level of measurement in the SPSS. Nominal,
He.
ordinal, scale, interval or
Scale.
He.
yes, scale. Because I mentioned that any numeric variable which is open, any form of variable, either it is in the form of ratio or interval, is indicated in the form of scale. Mr. Asim conducted a survey on the risk factor associated mortality. He wants to define to enter the data and the values of variable of his research question in SPSS. Which data detail view he will use in SPSS, because in this he wants to enter the data. Data view, variable view, pivot
Data
table.
view.
Yes,
Data view.
it is in data view because he wants to show or and want to enter the data, not to define the variable. Mr. Ali wants to enter the research questionnaire data in SPSS. While dealing with the variables, a few variables are identified as ID and phone numbers. He will enter patient ID and phone number in dash type of variable in the SPSS. String, interval, scale, ordinal or nominal. As it is,
String.